Okay.
Thank you.
File item 13, Assemblymember Williams.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank you.
Let's just wait 1 minute, and while people are clearing out, I can't believe they're not staying for your bill, but
I will not take it take it personally.
that's a good idea. I'd just like to say one of the reasons why I consider this a little bit of a work in progress. This relates to the oil spill problems that have been relatively recent in Santa Barbara County. So I look at this a little bit and work in progress, and there's going to have to be work done on this as it moves forward to appropriations. But that's one reason that I'm providing flexibility that you need because of that horrific spill. And this has to do with whether there's a safety shut-off valve, if you will, on pipelines and the requirements. So we know this bill isn't completely done. It'll be, if it passes out of this committee moving forward, giving the author about a month to work on it. May need to come back to committee or may not, depending upon the outcome of the results of your negotiations. So, and I know you're working with people that have concerns, Assemblymember Williams, and I appreciate that. So with that, please begin.
To that point, Madam Chair, we just recently had an editorial in a Santa Barbara paper that said this is that there is proof now that there is a good reason for the ability to have a gut and amend in the legislature, which is that sometimes emergencies and crises do happen mid-year, and that the legislature should have the ability to respond to that. I'd like to thank you and your staff for working with my office on this bill. Senators, on May 19th, an oil pipeline ruptured on the coast of Santa Barbara. At least 100,000 gallons spilled into the area, probably more. To date, this includes 195 dead birds, 81 dead sea lions, and 16 dead dolphins was the casualty rate. Of course, these are probably things that severely undercount its impact on the environment because many things when they are wrapped in oil, like the oil itself, eventually gets cold and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. The areas impacted by the spill are close to me and my community's heart, and we were devastated to see the beaches after the spill. I brought some pictures of the spill's impacts because a picture says 1,000 words, and I wanted members and the public to see what happened in my district and what we are trying to stop from happening again. They are behind me. On June 26th, Senator Jackson and I held a joint oversight hearing in Santa Barbara to examine the events leading up to and following the spill. This hearing helped identify that the pipeline was not equipped with the best achievable leak detection technology and automatic shut-off systems. Had the pipeline been fully equipped with the best achievable technologies, the amount of the oil spilled would have been reduced significantly. AB 864 requires pipelines in environmentally sensitive areas along the coast to use the best achievable technology, including but not limited to a system of leak detection technology, automatic shutoff valves, or remote-controlled sectionalized block valves to reduce the amount of oil released in an oil spill in order to protect state waters and wildlife. The bill will additionally require the pipeline operator to include in their oil spill contingency plan a description of the best achievable technology used to reduce the amount of oil released in a prospective spill. And this bill will protect state waters, wildlife, and California's beautiful coastline during these sad instances. I'm working with the opposition to make sure the bill will focus on coastal areas, including risk assessments, and to encourage OSPR to consult with the state fire marshal. In addition, we are looking at how to avoid duplication of regulation with state lands and dogger on pipelines they regulate at marine terminals and smaller feeder lines. I will make sure to stay in communication with the committee as we work on these issues. With me today is Monica Miller, representing the County of Santa Barbara, along with Matt Young from the county. And if she can make it over here, we'll have Victoria Rome representing NRDC.
Madam Chair and members, Monica Miller on behalf of the County of Santa Barbara and our Board of Supervisors took a support position. We apologize, our letter did not make the analysis because they just got it to me yesterday. I have with me today Matt Young, who can go into more detail about what's happening on the ground locally, as well as any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Let's hear from Mr. Young. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Senators. My name is Matt Young, and I am the Senior Planner in the Santa Barbara County Planning and Development Department's Energy and Minerals Division. I've been involved in emergency response, permitting, and recovery for the Refugio oil spill, as well as permitting and conditioning pipelines and other energy projects in the county. My comments today focus on the county's regulatory approach to pipelines. For the past decade or more, the county has not prescribed to oil company applicants the construction and safety systems required for inter- and intrastate pipelines. Instead, subsequent to changes to federal law in 2002, the county has evaluated oil and gas projects, including the associated pipeline systems in their entirety, as is required under CEQA. The Federal Pipeline Safety Improvement Act of 2002 does not preempt local jurisdictions from their obligations under CEQA to study the potentially significant environmental effects of the whole of a project, including the potential effects from oil spills. Working with oil company applicants, this has resulted in oil companies in Santa Barbara County routinely including in their project descriptions state-of-the-art leak detection and spill prevention technology, including automatic shutoff systems. These are then analyzed under CEQA. Pipeline systems which include automatic shutoff systems minimize the potential impacts from oil spills. Automatic shutoff systems rely on pipeline sensors which detect changes in pressure and flow. When anomalies are detected, the system automatically shuts down pumps and valves to limit the potential release of oil. Automatic shutoff systems are distinguished from remotely operated systems by the fact that automatic systems do not require human action, decision-making, or intervention to shut down the pipeline system. The two Plains pipelines in our county, both Line 901, the subject of the spill, and Line 903, to which it connects, do not have these systems. With the exception of these pipelines, all of the major pipelines in the county are equipped with automatic systems. These include all of the pipelines that transport oil and gas from the offshore platforms to onshore facilities in Santa Barbara County, and several onshore pipelines, including 2 permitted within the last 10 years. This concludes my prepared comments. I'm happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you for your attendance. Ms. Rome?
Thank you. I'm Victoria Rome with the Natural Resources Defense Council here in support of the bill. Just very briefly, we see this as a reasonable and appropriate response to the recent oil spill off the Santa Barbara coast. It requires pipeline operators to use best available technology, including leak detection, and automatic shutoff valves to minimize oil spill impacts. The recent oil leak was not detected right away, leaving oil to leak for several hours, fouling the coastline and harming wildlife. And we feel that this bill would help address future leaks more expeditiously so that we can protect these valuable resources. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else who wishes to add their name and support of this measure coming up to the microphone?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Amy Trainer with the West Marin Environmental Action Committee in strong support. Thank you.
Kelly Down on behalf of California Lake Conservation Voters in support.
Juan Altami Down on behalf of Audubon, California in support.
Kyle Jones with Sierra Club California in support.
Jennifer Clary of Clean Water Action in support.
Sarah Christie for the California Coastal Commission, who voted unanimously to support this bill last week.
Karina Hendren on behalf of Environment California in support.
All right. Anyone in opposition to this bill? And if you would clear out the front row, please, and Ms. Rome. And while they're coming up, just a note for the record that not only did this affect Santa Barbara, obviously the greatest, but in Ventura County, Oxnard beaches covered, Malibu, couple days closed down. South Bay beaches, Manhattan Beach shut down, Huntington Beach shut down. So the effects on the tourist economy, inconvenience, and the environmental damage was a collective problem. And I was surprised how quickly, because we know the ocean current carries things southerly, that the oil traveled. And, yep. Go ahead, Mr. Manning.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Ed Manning with KPE Public Affairs on behalf of the Western States Petroleum Association. We appreciate the, as you've described, the impact of this bill and how it affects local communities, and understand Senator Jackson and Williams' concerns and why they feel like they need to respond. I think the fundamental question we have is, what's the existing regulatory framework? Are there gaps? And if there are, how should we deal with it? One of the great ironies of this legislation is, unfortunately, because the Plains pipeline is an interstate pipeline, it's not clear that any bill that the state passes will affect that pipeline. And unfortunately, the situation was Santa Barbara County had lost litigation and was unable to put standards using their local land use authority through the CEQA process on the Plains pipeline. That's how they use their authority to create conditions and regulate the other pipelines as a mitigation measure through CEQA. So the next question we have then is, what areas geographically should the bill focus on? We think, first of all, it should be coastal regions, not waters of the state, but marine waters, and ecologically and environmentally sensitive areas, which is defined by the Oil Spill Prevention Response Agency as part of the state's contingency plan under current law. So that definition exists, those areas are identified, and we certainly understand where they are. The second issue, in our view, is what is the existing regulatory framework and which, if any, pipelines that are in these ecologically sensitive areas or marine waters, it lacks sufficient technology or regulation currently. And there you find a couple things. One, California's Oil Spill Prevention Response Act, which has been continually funded by the industry and increased funding last year, is a model program in the country, if not in the world, on oil spill prevention and response, and has worked exceedingly well. That program focuses on, one aspect of it focuses on marine terminals, and that's where tankers come in and offload crude to refineries. State Lands Commission and OSPR both regulate in that area, OSPR for spill prevention and response. State Lands actually regulates the marine terminals and pipelines and currently does a great job. And so we don't think marine terminals should be subject to this provision. The other area that Mr. Williams mentioned is oil fields who have their own regulatory program. And so if we can remove marine terminals and oil fields that are already regulated and have a whole bunch of specific reasons why the technology wouldn't work.
You could wrap up. You've spoken for 3 minutes.
I'm going to, sorry. It's a complicated issue. It's a gut and amend, so I apologize if I'm going on, but it's the only policy committee discussion we're likely to have. So in closing, we look forward to working with Mr. Williams. We'd like to focus the bill if there's specific pipelines, and we'll do that during the interim and hope we can get to a resolution. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
No, he says he's going to be working and negotiating with you.
We appreciate that.
Yes.
Good morning.
Next witness.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Anthony Thomas, representing the California Independent Petroleum Association. Members, as a son of a Navy veteran, I too am extremely disturbed when our coastal life is certainly interrupted. No one will deny a spill that is destructive to our environment. No one will deny that an oil spill is destructive to our oceans and marine life, nor impacts the next generation, which is our nation's future. And SIPA is not here. I want to be very clear, Madam Chair. SIPA is not here today to oppose any rational solution to prevent further spills, such as the one on 19th of May of this year. The bill attempts to address any spill in the future. However, in the July 9th amended version, the bill specifically does not require, the bill requires an operator of a pipeline located in an environmentally and ecologically sensitive area of state waters and along the coast to install the best achievable control technology. But there's no definition, Madam Chair, of environmentally and ecologically sensitive areas of state waters in the government code. If there are no specific definitions of where to install the best achievable control technology, then it could be interpreted that it would apply to all pipelines in the state, which is in excess of 40,000. Installation of automatic and shutdown insulation valves is not without its environmental risks at all. The potential valve malfunction or accidental closure could result in unintended pipelines overpressurized. What we believe is missing from the bill is an accurate and reliable leak detection system. An accurate and reliable leak detection system. Without that, what the bill is asking for, shutdown and isolation valves, provide very little environmental protection, and it does increase the risk of accidental valve closures. And finally, pipelines and oil fields, as my counterpart alluded to, are already regulated to provide environmental protection by DOGGR. That was under AB 1980, which regulates oil field pipeline design, maintenance, inspection, as well as spill response. We are more than prepared, Madam Chair, to be a part of the solution in the prevention of oil spills and the installation of accurate mechanisms to detect any issues that may arise in the future. All we ask is that we get it right the first time, Our letter suggests 3 basic amendments to AB 864 that will remove SIPA's opposition. That will remove our opposition. We do not think that the amendments that we're asking for are gregarious. We don't think that they're unreasonable, and we would hope that when we have the conversation with the author, that we will certainly be able to amend that into the bill. With that, Madam Chair, our comments are final. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, just for the record, I'm going to let you know this is the last bill we're hearing before break. We'll be adjourning till 1:30. We're going to finish this bill, hopefully. We are adjourning to 1:30 in room 113, which is across the hall. And I believe we have 4 bills left. All right? So with that, anyone else in opposition wishing to lend their name here? We have lengthy testimony. Senator Jackson.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank Assemblymember Williams for bringing this bill. We had a hearing in Santa Barbara, and it was really quite eye-opening. You know, we all know that pipelines, if you're going to be drilling oil and transporting it, pipelines are the safest mechanism to do that. That being said, with all of the intensity of oil drilling, one would think that companies would do absolutely everything possible to make sure they were transporting oil in the safest way they could. Reference was made to the fact that Plains purchased a pipeline system from another company, I don't remember who, that had 20 years ago sued to be excluded from having to follow local requirements because they were an intrastate pipeline. If I'm not mistaken, most pipelines consider themselves to be intrastate pipelines. And it is only because there is the CEQA process that Santa Barbara County has been able to create requirements that are more protective of the transportation of oil by pipeline than what the industry wants to use. And that being said, yes, indeed, it has been fairly successful. Alas, here's a company that doesn't have to provide the safest or best achievable technology, and we have an oil spill that has cost enormous amounts of money to the community and, frankly, to Plains Pipeline Company. We estimate it well over $100 million and counting. When inquiring about what the cost of having put in a shutoff system, maybe not a valve, but a system, the cost was pointed out, well, we can't really say, but certainly a lot less than $100 million. Now, for those of us who live in California, those of us who live along the coast, those of us who enjoy the coast, which is just about everybody, this is more than about money. This is about a quality of life. This is preserving our opportunities to enjoy all the things that make California the place where we choose to live. And I find it quite shocking that WISPA, which I am renaming chutzpah, has taken the position that they want to do the right thing, but they're not in support of this bill. As I understand the bill, and I know that Assemblymember Williams will narrow it to address the concerns that are articulated, the notion of fighting the use of best achievable technology is really stunning to me. This is something that every oil company should want to do. At the end of the day, it's likely to save the money, but at this point, as I said, the people who live along the coast down to Hermosa Beach, was it, where the tar balls showed up, and up in my district, our district, where they had to close Refugio Beach and had to close some of the most wonderful public space where people are able to recreate during the holiday season and enjoy with their families, because this company refused to use the best achievable technology and is here now to object. Just strikes me as really being a showing of a truly bad faith. And I know that I'm heartened to hear that there is a desire to work to make this result the most protective of the people of the state, and I think that should be the goal. This is something that is long overdue. It's been a battle every step of the way to get the oil industry to comply with or to acknowledge the need for any kind of regulation. California is not the Wild West when it comes to oil drilling, and certainly not along our coast. And I want to assure Assemblyman Williams that I will work with him as closely as necessary to get this, I think, very common sense and modest legislation passed. We're not looking at being vindictive. We're looking at being preventative. We don't want any more of these spills along our coast. We have had far too many, and frankly, I think throughout the state, as we see more and more pipelines, the people in whose communities these pipelines run also don't want to see these spills, because it could be 100,000 gallons in the ocean or 100,000 gallons going. If you take a look in the photograph earlier, there was a man who didn't use good judgment and ended up with this crude oil on his body. This is toxic. Whether it gets into the watershed, whether it gets onto people or onto birds or onto wildlife or mammals, whatever, are the creatures that we share this earth with, this is dangerous stuff. And if we're going to continue to transport it and drill it and do whatever, I think it's really incumbent upon us as a state to take a very, very strong position that this has to be done as safely as humanly possible. And I would urge the opposition to work closely, irrespective of whether this is a gut and amend. I think it is about as mild and non-punitive. It just says we're going to do the best that is humanly possible to make sure we don't have these things happen in Santa Barbara or anywhere else along the state, because oil has become, sadly to some of us, sort of part of the landscape, and we need to do everything we can to protect it. So I realize it's lunchtime, and I've probably gone off too far, but I think on behalf of the people that we represent, and all of us here in the state, this is a critically important issue, and we should do everything we can to protect our environment, protect the people, and protect our resources and our economy as we go forward.
So, Assemblymember Williams, is that your close?
No, but I will be brief.
And I'm going to take that as a motion by Senator Jackson.
First of all, these waters are not just a place; they are sacred to us as Santa Barbarans and folks and Venturans. But it's not just important for us. The people who are recreating at these beaches, some of them are the most popular campsites in the state of California, come from Senator Vidak's district, from Senator Hertzberg's district, from all over the state of California. It is important for all of us. However, I'm particularly highlighting the impact to wildlife because, the state of California has a proven right to regulate impacts to state waters and state wildlife. And while I think that it's preposterous, the claim that this pipeline operator makes that this is an interstate pipeline, because they have never shipped oil out of state through this pipeline, right? This is oil that is refined in Kern County or elsewhere in the state of California, not in other states. But even if the courts are right on that, the courts have determined that the state of California has the power to regulate impacts to state waters and to state wildlife. And that is the hinge point of this bill. We feel like it is a measured response, one that we've already made concessions in order to make sure that it adheres to what the state is able to do. We restricted this to coastal zone, though I suppose that it is a concession, because state waters do include riverways. And we will work with the opposition when requests are reasonable. But we must do better on pipeline safety and on the inspection regime. That's why I'm glad that there is companion legislation by Senator Jackson. Let me tell you what was revealed by the hearing. That the pipeline operator's system noticed that there was an anomaly in the morning. They turned off the pipeline, then turned it back on, so they dithered. Then, a little while later, they turned it back off again. But instead of calling out responses, they waited to have to walk the entire line of the pipeline. This, in totality, created a successive amount of dithering that led to enough hours of delayed response for shutoff and then cleanup that boats were not mobilized early enough to begin the cleanup the first day of the spill. And because those boats did not have night, I guess they don't have big enough lights, they did not have the capability to do any cleanup at night. They then returned the next day. And so the lack of the proper shutoff valves, shutoff systems, and of proper response created a delay that was over 20 hours to real cleanup of the spill. This is unacceptable with the technology that we have today. And lastly, what the opposition asked for was leak detection technology in the bill. I would just point out to senators that that is on the first page of the bill, line 9 of the bill. And we will continue to work with the committee and with the opposition to try to make policy that makes sense.
Very good. And that is your close. So the motion by Senator Jackson is due pass to the Committee on Appropriations. You have a lot of work to do, but we have some time next month or so. Roll call.
Senators Pavley?
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Stone? Allen? Allen, aye. Hertzberg? Hertzberg, aye. Hueso? Jackson? Jackson, aye. Monning? Vidak? Wolk? Okay, so it has 4. It needs to be on call.
Okay, you have 4 votes. It's going to be on call. We're going to be taking a recess until 1:30 in room 112, which is across the hall from here. 113, excuse me, we're in 112. So 113, starting at 1:30, and according to my notes, I think we have 4 bills.